Patton Oswalt. A lot of you know him from his voice in Ratatouille. Some of you know him from whatever bar show that smells like spilt beer and wet dogs you saw him at. A lot of you know him from mistaking him for a little person. A lot of you know him from getting rejected on trying to get on rides at Great Adventure. A lot of you know him as a guy who looks like he transitioned into a guy. A lot of you guys know him from playing one of the bank goblins in Harry Potter. And some of you know him now for issuing an absolutely heartfelt apology. He took a picture with Adolf Hitler. And that is just no. That is, you are on notice, my friend. You are on fucking notice. So what happened was Adolf Hitler invited Patton Oswalt down to perform at his rally in an arena which Patton Oswalt could only hope to ever fill, because there's just not that many white kids with liberal arts degrees who are in between college and having a job. So certain other comedians perform for real people who can afford $50 tickets. And I'm sorry, I'm going in hard on you only because you went in on one of our own for no fucking reason, and then you did a bitch move. It's a bitch move. To quote the great Donnell Rawlings, there's not a lot of bitch ass. Can you say the N-word for me, please?
Niggas.
Yeah, there's a lot of those nowadays, and this era is not made for everybody. So Patton Oswalt was invited down by his old friend Dave Chappelle. They go back 30 years. They've known each other. They're friends from comedy, right? Now, is he from DC as well, Patton Oswalt?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so he's like the illegitimate son of some senator who fucked a housekeeper or something, and he grew up in DC, privileged probably. And Dave Chappelle's parents also well off. Yeah. Dave Chappelle comes from like a well off home. So I don't know how long they've known each other, and that's just an aside. I'm just giving you some history.
34 years.
34 years they've been. 34 years. Okay, that's as long as I've known Jesse Scatoro. Do you think I would ever go? Huh?
That's older than your wife.
That is older than my wife. You know what's funny about Jay Harvin? Like when he wasn't here, like a couple weeks, and he went into the chat. Yeah. You know, he had like senioritis in the chat. You know, when you don't care anymore, he's like, fuck this. I'm waiting to get. I'm in studio now. I don't fucks with this chat. I leave that shit to Drew and Omar as well. Yeah, bro. I don't fucks with this chat anymore. I come in and throw heat now. So yeah, older than my wife. Can you imagine? That would be like if Jesse Scatoro, who I've probably known you 30 years, right? Over Easy. 30 years.
Yeah,
over 30 years. About 30 years. About 30 plus years. Could you? I mean, what kind of person would I be if something happened in the news with you? That's, by the way, bullshit. And then, like, I took a picture with you, and a couple of strangers commented on my picture and said that they were upset with me. What kind of, just imagine, this is the type of person Patton Oswalt is, deep down. What kind of person would I be? Now that I'm giving you the anatomy of how this goes, if I went and I took a picture of myself writing on a legal pad, all pensive looking, and then posted this long apology letter in this pedantic tone to the greatest comedian of our era. That goes beyond dispute. If he's not the greatest, he's one of the greatest. Okay, it's subjective. He's one of the greatest. You're saying he's learning, he's growing, and you're a fat little portly lesbian-looking white man talking to a black man. If this is not progress in our country, I don't know what this is. That a white man is preaching to a black man on how to be more open-minded. I mean, what is, if up is not down and down is not up, I don't know what's going on. Here he is in his fucking 1950s looking green room on his dumb legal pad with his AirPods in, unquestionably listening to some independent band from Seattle that nobody gives a fuck about. You're 55 years old right now, okay? David Cross has a gray beard, and he's dating a 30-year-old like me. We've moved on, Patton Oswalt. You need to, too. Put some classical music in on those headphones and pretend to be straight and make some children. Go home. Does he have kids?
I think so.
Okay, so you did that. I went a little off our research. As you know, I don't like to do that on this pure news show. I don't like to tell things that aren't true, but he has some kids. They must be very proud of him to see daddy's fucking post. And if they grow up in Portland or Seattle, which is where I assume he has his summer home, then they're happy for him, right? So he posts this apology letter to the people about being seen with Dave. I mean, what kind of dystopian, Orwellian nightmare are we living in that you're treating it like you took a picture with the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez? Dave Chappelle does comedy.
Yep.
You could make a more reasonable argument that his special, which he did devote a lot of time to trans. I mean, he should have just called the special, "Hey, trans people, let's talk." But that aside, you could make a more reasonable argument that that special was pro-trans, pro-humanist, more than you can it was anti-trans. By the way, a normal person watching that whole thing, okay? But even if, let's say, he said some transphobic jokes, like the portly, fat, fucking pinkish, illegitimate son of a congressman that I'm talking about right now, because guess who had his videos dug up and has tons of fucking, how should we say, off-color jokes about gays and trans and special needs people, who I happen to have a brother who is special needs, who you called retarded. I don't mind. I wasn't that offended, but I'm going to pretend to be to show how much of a hypocrite you are. I am going to post, actually, I'm committing right now, my next Instagram post will be a picture of me watching a Patton Oswalt special with a disappointed look in my face, and then a long apology letter about how I used to like Patton Oswalt, because he's got some good jokes. I like Patton Oswalt a little bit. How I used to like him, but how disappointed I am, and how much more room he has for growth as someone who's targeting the gay and the retarded communities. Okay, because now people went back and found his old comedy clips where he's saying just as horrible, if not more horrible things than Dave Chappelle. Comedy is saying the wrong thing. You guys are both not running for office. Why did you post an Instagram post like you were fucking Ted Cruz caught with a fucking underage boy in a motel room? That's what I expect. You took a picture and did comedy with Dave Chappelle at a comedy show. Get over yourself. I want to throw everyone into a fucking CCP gulag for a week, or make them vacation in Sudan for 10 minutes. So then they can come back and get some fucking perspective about what an actual criminal is, and what actually his crime is, and what morality fucking is. You know what's not immoral? Making jokes. Did I do that too calm, you think? Should I kick it up a notch?
You gotta dial that up.
Do I need to dial that up? Do I need to give it a little bit more oomph? Am I being a little bit too deadpan?
You gotta put a little passion in there.
I gotta put a little more passion in there.
Yeah.
So he apologized to Dave Chappelle, and then all these videos came out where Patton Oswalt is doing the same thing Dave Chappelle is doing, and then some people in the comments are going, "Oh, but he was making a progressive point," and you're going, "That's not the rules." That's not the rules, because guess who else he went hard on was Shane Gillis, who was a very funny guy. When Shane Gillis got fired from SNL for saying the word chink, can you bleep that? I mean, are we children? Just right? So, for saying the word chank, it rhymes with chank. Just change one letter. He was doing it in the character of a real estate investor or salesperson in the bit on the podcast. So it's the same as Patton Oswalt here. So let's take a look at, this is the clip that Patton Oswalt is doing the same exact thing Shane Gillis was doing when Patton Oswalt also went hard on Shane Gillis. Here it is. Check this out. We got the world's slowest Googler, so just bear with us.
Why isn't it playing?
Come on, man.
It's not working.
I'm going to guess it not playing has more to do with you than it does the internet.
You're probably right.
Come on, man.
Fags want to get married, or some dykes, they want to be men. How the fuck does that affect you, asshole? You know?
Good, clean fun.
Listen, hey, if there's some tranny out there.
Tranny? Fag?
Like,
dyke?
I don't want a dick no more. I want a vagina. Then boom, guess what? It's a she now.
It's a she now. He called them it. He called them it. Keep going because it gets worse.
I don't know. Whatever they want to call themselves, that's it. Don't affect you. So if you see some guy, I don't care if he's got a chooch, it looks like a Boris Karloff horror movie.
Okay, hold on. Let's slow it down, Dennis Miller. Not everyone is an obscure horror movie fan. I know your fans are absolute uselessly educated geeks who think that being smart is knowing about horror movies and having a BA in literature. But let's slow it down a little bit, okay? But it still was pretty funny, okay? Whatever character you're doing, I'm not offended by this. The point is, I'm not saying you did anything bad. What I'm saying you did bad is be a goddamn hypocrite and a snitch bitch, okay? Because you're doing the same exact thing here that Shane Gillis did. You're doing the same exact thing here, but worse than Dave Chappelle did. Because Dave Chappelle, who's a better comic than you in every regard, had a poignant point to his. You know, he had a friend who was trans. Maybe you are trans, but I'd like to see how many trans friends you have. Okay, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you weren't as nice to a trans person as Dave Chappelle was. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are. It still doesn't mean you were doing the same thing here. Jay Harvin, you're a 24-year-old black man in America. What's your view on this?
I just think he's being hypocritical. He's really being hypocritical. Honestly, I can't tell if that's Patton Oswalt or Ralphie May. With the way he's talking,
he does look like if Ralphie May got a stomach staple operation.
Yeah. But in that picture with Dave Chappelle, he looks like Dave Chappelle's stylist. So
he does look like Dave Chappelle's lesbian stylist, or to borrow his parlance, dyke stylist.
Yeah. You know, Patton Oswalt's trying to make this seem like it's a bigger deal because he's in the dressing room with the Malcolm X hand over the face, trying to make it seem like he's writing down civil rights, but you know he's not really doing that.
I mean, look at this picture he took. I mean, is this not the most cringe thing that he took a picture of himself pretending to write what he wrote?
It's all performative.
I mean, it's so performative and transparent, and it's kind of sad, man. It's like kind of sad that, you know, comedians are, you know, it's okay to make jokes about each other. I mean, everyone benefits from that, even if it's a little smoke. That's fine. Or if someone does something bad and it's in the news, then that's free game, baby. Mm-hmm. We're comics. We got to do our job.
Yeah.
As the great Tim Dillon says, we got to do our job. But to morally go after another comedian for what he said on stage is a no-no. That's a 101 of our community. A community doesn't exist anymore, really, and I'm fine with that. But, you know, the 101s of being a comedian is not doing this. Not apologizing to an audience because you take a pic with your old friend. He's a friend of yours, dog. He's a friend of yours who invited you down to perform. Did a nice thing for you. Introduced you to some people who don't smell their fingers before dinner and after dinner, you know? Some fans who don't smell girls' seats after they stand up. Some people who actually have, you know, working class jobs, you know? Can you imagine Patton Oswalt in front of any ethnic or working class audience? Mm-mm. There's just certain comedians who need a specific audience, so just calm the fuck down. You're in the presence of greatness, okay? And he invites you down because he's a nice guy and he smokes cigarettes and he likes to have a good time. You take a picture with him and post it on your own Instagram to big yourself up. And then you catch a little backlash from like 3 people with fucking purple hair. And then you go and write this self-righteous, it's so gross it makes me sick. It makes me want to finger pop his puss. Anyway, it just seems, you know, that just seems like a, you know, it's like if Nate Bargatze, you know, me and Nate, I've known Nate now for, you know, too long, but how long have I had to have to deal with Nate? Nate's one of my closest friends. I've known him for, what is it, 2000 and...
Yeah,
I've known him for a long time.
Known him long enough
15
to know that
years,
he doesn't wear sandals out in public anymore. Yeah.
yeah. Nate, I don't know. Nate, he's aging Benjamin Button-wise. I mean, he used to look like shit, and now he looks good.
Yeah.
But I've known. It's like if Nate told a joke, which would never happen, but he told a joke that was like offensive. Some people thought it was offensive, like a huge minority of the population thought it was offensive, but there was like a hoopla about it. And then I went and did a show with him. He invited me down to one of his, Christian shows. And, the place was packed with God lovers and Jesus fearers. And it was a great time. Those are real people, good people. I don't judge them at all. I mean, I was born Christian. I'm kind of Christian too, I guess. I don't give a fuck. But that's the side point. I'm digressing. My point is, I took a picture with him because I wanted to show that I knew a more famous comic. Okay, because that's true. He's more famous. So, and then I put it on my Instagram, and I caught heat from a few people. And it's my friend, and I posted a picture of a more famous comic than me before, and then I go post another one to try to please and win everybody, and then said Nate's learning, give him time, he's learn. I mean, what kind of like what is the word for that? It's not. Is it pedantic or is it like it's paternalistic?
Sanctimonious.
It's like sanctimonious and self-righteous and paternalistic. You know, like, oh, this boy's learning.
Yeah.
He's figuring it. Shut the fuck up.
It's condescending.
Yeah.
Very condescending.
Why don't you figure out how to make one black person laugh?
Yeah, you're not gonna do it.
Before Patton Oswalt, why don't you learn how to make one person who is not a liberal arts educated white dude from the suburbs laugh? And then maybe you can talk about what Dave Chappelle needs to learn. I'm breaking my pen.